Well, thank you very much. Nice talking with you again. The truth of the matter is, while the merger was in progress, I was very, very enthusiastic to see how it would play out. I was happy, maybe enthusiastic is not the word, I was happy that at last, instead of little party here and small party there, one in this corner of the country, some major parties can come together instead of fighting in their own geopolitical zone and really become a national party that can face the behemoth called PDP. And interestingly, I was part of CPC, and I moved a motion for the merger at Eagle Square in Abuja because we thought if we have two-party system in Nigeria, it would deepen our democracy. As they say, water will find its level. You end up with having Nigerian version of Republican and Democratic Party in Nigeria. That's the joy we had, and but we are still looking at the unfolding scenario, because a union of CPC, ACN, and ANPP should definitely produce what you call a national party. But here, that's where I can stop for now. We are looking at who and who are the real pillars within these parties and what do they stand for. Don't let's rush quickly over who is where. To start with, I didn't condemn either Tommy Kimi or Yerima. I condemn their acts and the acts of the government they represented. I did a one-man parade against Abacha, and I developed a theme song for him, Abacha will be butchered, that brought DMI and SSS to my doorstep, and I was invited and interrogated because I saw this man hiding behind his dark goggles, not moving Nigeria anywhere, and we're not afraid of him. It's history. I went to Kano to declare that Murtala Muhammad would not be the only head of state that we brought home dead, though he was a hero. But this man was coming home dead too, while he was still in power. As for Yerima, only a pervert will hold his peace while the Senate of the Federal Republic will allow such terrible amendment of our law and our legal system to allow child marriage. And therefore, the acts were condemned and they still stand condemned. Now, whether we will sit on the same table and eat from the same table and talk from the same side of the divide, that time will tell. Because I am fully persuaded that you may change strategies, but principles must remain firm. I can't see a destructive means bringing about a constructive end. They say, show me your friend, I tell you who you are. If you lie down with dogs, you get up with fleas. I'm careful about not just the political landscape. Do not forget I'm a preacher, and by God's grace, a preacher of righteousness. There are some compromises I cannot condone personally. And if I have to maintain the purity of my heart and the authenticity of the gospel, there are some things I must not be found doing. So that, will show you what direction I will go. If I have to stand and to choose between two evils, I will choose none. wasn't there when he made that announcement, and if he has gone by that announcement, I think it's free, it's voluntary. He didn't compel anyone. Whether it's 3 kilometers long or 10 kilometers long, I wish him well. But this I know. Once upon a time, God had a temple for his people. Today, he has people for his temple. So if we don't build people, the people we don't build will destroy the buildings we are building. And I know Pastor Deboye is a very humble man of God, and so I wish him well, and I pray that the whole people that will fill this 3-kilometer church will be part of righteous people that will exalt our nation, not the hungry and the mob who think they can just go and pray and then things will happen. Yes, I believe in prayers, I believe in the Bible, but evil shall not walk, shall not eat. And if the church will play its active role, the church will make a difference in Nigeria. God forbid that our churches are 3 kilometers long and 1 inch deep.
Thank you so much, Pastor.
Thank you. His Excellency, I call him, and fondly he calls me my Egmo. He's a man I've come to respect because of his sensitivity and his willingness to receive whatsoever we have brought to him, as whether right or wrong, and he has listening ear and is responsive. Now, I was to take him on the issue of this deportation. Then his father died, and I had to travel. But as God will have it, some of our people took him up. For example, Dr. Joe Oke-Odumake, who you know well, took him up, and he exchanged correspondence with our group and some of our people of what actually transpired. Some of these people were picked on the road, wandering around. Now, wandering is no longer
an offense.
An offense.
Yes.
But in a system or in a state of total insecurity, you can't just allow anyone to meander and be going about. So some of these people were picked to find out who are you, because either through Okada riders or days, armed robbery was becoming prevalent in Lagos. The inflow of people they suspected to be Boko Haram raised the security awareness of the government, and so many things happening at the same time. So they found that these people, from the report that I got, not from Fashola directly, the governor, but from Dr. Joe Oke-Odumake and a few of our people, they found that they had no job, they had no fixed address, there was nowhere they could say this is where we are living and this is our relation here. So after they had assembled them, and that would not be the first time, they did it in Oyo also, and they did it in some part of the north, to say, okay, where are your relatives? Because you cannot just be here, jobless, no home, no place to live, and we can't just accommodate everyone and say, okay, go to old people's home. Many of the homes are already overfilled. This is the report I got. And they say, okay, they contacted these homestays from where we got and said, these people had given us no fixed address, but they have managed to tell us their villages, we are bringing these people to you. In law, you can't deport a citizen of a country because that is inappropriate. Yes. A Nigerian must be free to live anywhere he chooses within the country. Unfortunately, tribal politics and primordial sentiments had eaten into the fabric of our nationhood. So Nigerians don't think in terms of belonging to the nation. They think in terms of, I'm from this tribe and from this zone. Ijebu will tell you, I'm from Ogun State. Gaman will tell you, I'm from Abeokuta. And instead of being Nigerian first. I remember when we're contesting election, the first thing we wrote is that Nigeria will be restructured along through federal, true federalism. Not only that, no longer would we have in our forms anymore state of origin. It will be state of residence or state where you reside. Yeah. Okay, so those are issues that they had to look for the villages or the nearest towns of these people to take them there. But the Anambra governor, or the one in the east where they were deported to, also fired a letter to Mr. President to say this is improper. Call Lagos State government to order or governor to order. I found that also very ridiculous because he could have spoken to his counterpart instead of saying, Father Christmas at the top, we need your help as governor of a state. Whichever way you look at it, it shows the low level at which we are still operating in terms of nationhood. Maybe there are sane moments. Every sane human being has an insane period. It's called lucid and illucid intervals. Maybe it's their lucid interval that they mentioned where they came from, or circumstances of poverty. To be honest with you, I would not mince words that the resources that would have taken care of Nigerians have been diverted by so many of our leaders across board into things that will benefit themselves. Because if the purpose of governance is the welfare of the people at all levels, if that is a primary concern of those who are seeking power today or who are in power today, then such people ought to be provided for, taken care of, because they are the vulnerables of the society. The Bible that I preach and that I live by says 4 categories of people must never be taken advantage of or oppressed: the poor, the widow, the fatherless, and a stranger amongst you. God so emphasizes, remember you are strangers in Egypt. So foreigners must not be oppressed. The poor must not be oppressed. The widows, God says, a red hot or wrath will come from me to anyone who oppresses the widow and the fatherless. And if these people are vulnerable and we don't take care of them, it's poor. But there's a limit to what any state government can do. And the influx of people into Lagos will be of concern to anyone. Now, whether this is the best way to approach the matter, until I take the governor on personally, I will still let him go through his mourning period, because we are not going to let him be swept under the carpet. I will ask his side, and then SNG will appropriately respond. That was an unfortunate situation. One of my close associates took me on that I went to Ogun State in the days of Governor Gbenga Daniel to publicly first to condemn minority voting out majority in Ogun State until the house was shut. And Professor Wole Soyinka and a few of us also went to do a town hall meeting to decry what happened. They were wondering, why did I not speak in respect of Rivers State? And I said, I'm such a person that I gather facts first. I like to know what's going on before I make my comments. And as God will have it, I ran into the governor of Rivers State, Rotimi Amechi, in Toronto. We were given a lecture as part of the presentation of Nasir El-Rufai's Accidental Public Servants, the book he wrote in a university in Ottawa. And while we were flying back, I saw Amechi there, and I took him on some of these issues. The election had not taken place then. I took him on the issue of the jet, and why is it becoming a status statement, status symbol of governance in Nigeria. And he responded, and whether I was satisfied with his answer or not, I made him realize that there's more to do to help the people of Rivers State and to make his tenure better than that of his predecessor, than all the things we were hearing. And we parted amicably. But as far as the mathematics is concerned, it's a public shame. It's totally, no matter how you look at it, those who are behind it and those who are swimming in that cesspool of perversity should know that they are not helping the Nigerian democracy. If the governors of our nation cannot conduct a simple election and have a straightforward result, it shows that what kind of people we have in power today. In parliamentary or simple democracy, majority carries the vote. And if indeed and in truth, the election and the voting that took place gave majority to Amechi, then what is going on is nothing but I can't call it a joke. It's sad. It's sad. Now, concerning Ondo State Governor, Mimiko was sold to me, as it were, by those who had been to Ondo to see what he was doing as a governor serving his people. They brought me photographs and they recommended, and you know, when you work with people, you listen to A, B, C. And I made up my mind that, okay, if the man is performing, he requires support if he was doing what would benefit the people. I think the trigger point for me when I went public was when Tinubu crossed the line and called himself Godfather. And that Christians also know about Godfather, so he's Godfather. I saw him equating himself to my God, and I said, nonsense, this will not stand. And I stood up and I said, you will not even come second in Ondo. You will see that the God that you toy with is not supposed to be toyed with. There are some things you don't touch. You don't cast, you don't call things that are sacred. You don't turn them into. I'm not a religious person, but there are some fundamentals you don't touch without getting a response. So that was the trigger point for my own participation. I do not know Mimiko at that close range as to be called a friend. He was highly recommended by those who saw that he was doing something. And when Tinubu then said he was Godfather, I said, no. There's only one Godfather. He's in heaven. All the heads of mafia that call themselves Godfather, they're just wasting their time, because the gods that have not created the heaven and the earth shall perish from under this heaven. That's what the book of Jeremiah says in chapter 10 or 11 of Jeremiah. So that was how I became involved with Ondo State election. But that does not justify this mathematical mago, if I may use that, the daylight robbery that is going on. If the election truthfully is 16 against this, then let the one who won the thing be there, or else you are digging a terrible hole for future reference. Many of those things, like in the days of SDP, NRC, were things God spoke to me directly by His Spirit. Some of them were pure for anyone who has any sanctified common sense. You can see that, like the Yoruba say, when young people are cutting the tree in the forest, the elders know where it will fall. When God speaks to me, I speak. And besides that, I make rational deductions and I don't confuse both. I'll let people know this is my opinion. As far as this is concerned, the way you are going, this is where it will end. There are some things you can predict yourself. Because if someone decides that you'll be eating all negative things and will be drinking poison and be smoking, you know, it will have health challenge. And you can say, David, you're going to injure yourself. And but when it comes to prophecy, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. The spirit of the prophet is subject unto the prophet, not the spirit of prophecy. So when God speaks to me, I speak, and I say it the way it comes to me, and let God himself be the one in charge of fulfillment. I've said some things in recent past, and I've spoken to those who care to listen. Let's prepare as if 2015 will be here and be doing what is normal in preparation for it. But the way we are going, something will give way before that 2015. And I'm not saying this because Nigeria will be 100 years old, as the Union of the North and the South by Lord Lugard, 1914, that 2014, something dramatic will happen. No, that's not my reason. I did a lot of comparative analysis, and I said the way we are running the nation, we are going to grind to a halt. Now, I came up with how to change government peacefully without shedding blood, and I gave instances that if you know that you are not capable of delivering the responsibility given to you, the place of honor is to say, look, let's look for a better person to handle this. I want to stay in a place where I'm competent, and by God's grace, I'm confident. The way things are going, the nation is tottering towards disruption economically, politically, insecurity. And I'm not the one to blame just one person for it, to say Jonathan is the only person that is causing this. Yes, he's a president, and to whom much is given, much is expected. But these issues have been there all along, and it seems to be getting worse under the protracted illness called PDP that has afflicted Nigeria. Now, if that's going to change, drastic measures must begin to be, to take place at all levels of governance in Nigeria. The mass of youth that are employed, anybody that has sense knows that that's an implosion about to take place within the country, because it can't continue this way before a rubber will hit the road. I remember the Ojota rally we had over the fuel subsidy palaver. They put up a placard there that frightened me. That one day the poor will have nothing to eat but the rich. It was lifted up in Abuja, it was lifted up in Lagos. In my village, they say the poor man cannot sleep because he's hungry, and the rich man cannot sleep because the poor man is still awake. That's where we are. You have mass unemployment among people who should be contributing their quota meaningfully to their nation, and all the fantasies of we are going to empower them, we are going to use money to put this in, and nothing seems to be happening. In fact, it looks like a little drop of water in the midst of mass of people who are employed. The day Dangote wanted drivers for his truck, and PhD holders in their 5s and 10s applied, it was the day I began to take note that something's about to give way in this country. So politically, I do not see how we get to 2015. And that's why those who are thinking of 2015 should look at what can be done in the immediate. For example, the parties that seem to have been formed, and this one that have been registered now, APC, PDP, even if it's at local government level controlled by them or state government level controlled by either, they should put things in place that will take care of mass unemployment, especially amongst the youth. They should start vocational training. All houses, almost at every level now, except even where you have Julius Bajo there, If they're not foreigners, you find that those who are doing POPs in our country are from Cotonou. Those who are doing things like tile laying, they're from abroad. Our citizens are not exposed to vocational training anymore. All those things have been destroyed. You are going to have multi-layer of violence and all kinds of eruption if care is not taken. And if welfare of the people is a purpose of governance and the people are not being taken care of, let them not think they can sleep well. I don't see us getting to 2015 with ease and fanfare that we are doing right now. Let me share what is the motivating force behind that. It's not popularity. By the grace of God, already have a name, some lovers, some haters. It's not political power. If you want to seek power, that's probably not one of the ways to go. From when I was young, I couldn't stand injustice, and I couldn't bear the oppression of the poor. And God has helped me in such a way that I can take care of myself by God's grace and pay my own bills. All my children were in Ojota. They came from their schools, their universities in America to stand with me and my wife there, because it's immoral to invite other people's children out and go hide your own children. So I'm not doing this just to show off and to see what we can amass. I will tell you again and again, if the church is supposed to be the salt of the earth and the light of the world, would not participate in ensuring peace, justice, and orderliness in our society, a day is coming when churches themselves will not be able to open. When Jesus said you are the salt of the earth, we are supposed to stand against corruption. When he says you are the light of the world, you are supposed to dispel darkness and to bring illumination to people as well as inspiration as God reveals things to you. So all that I'm doing is, look, the salt that is in salt shaker is just decorative. Salt that must redeem and bring an end to corruption must get involved. When the Bible says the corruption that is in the world, the Bible prescribes only one solution: the manifestation of the sons of God. It is righteousness that exalts a nation. So believe me, I would rather lead people in a peaceful protest like Ojota than allow them to go into violence and destroy properties and stabilize the system, because not one pin was missing in Ojota. Even area boys were picking phones and bringing them to the platform. And people who thought politicians sponsored us had their heads buried in the sand like the ostrich, because no politician sponsored us or gave us money to do what we did. We were fully persuaded that that was the right thing to do. And if the occasion calls for it again, by the grace of God, God given us life and given us direction, we'll be there to show that there are still people who care about the poor in our country.